The idea that you're going to run a low overhead practice is the biggest trap in the world. So here's what everyone does, is they will work as an associate. They may work somewhere else, or they may open up a small gig. Now, and then what happens is they start making quite good money on the small gig because it's their own little business, right? And they got no overhead, clean. So let's go through the game. They've got no receptionist. They got no rental most of the time because it's off the side of their house. They may have that, but tiny amounts of that. They have got very little marketing costs, etc., because it's small right now and it's a handful of visits a week, but it's 100% profit on those. So what happens is the side gig quickly starts to match like the visits over here, or at least like close to it. You know, half you may be earning X amount here, which is like half of what you're earning here, and they think that the translation is, well, if I give up that, then and I keep my overheads low, then I'm going to earn way more there. That is the biggest lie in the world, because first of all, I always say this: what they call a lifestyle business, solopreneur, or a low overhead practice is nothing but prison. Is nothing but prison. So if you want a business, which is a profit-making enterprise that works without you, you're going to have. Do you know anyone that has changed the world who hasn't got a team? I don't. Or people around them. People who made massive impact, served massively. You have to have a team, which means you have to serve big to be able to afford that team. So the idea of keeping your numbers small, overhead small, so margin goes, so profits high, is the biggest lie in the world. It'll eat at your soul, because who's going to be answering the telephone? Who's going to be booking people into the diary? And did you really study for 6 years to be the person booking everyone in the diary, answering the phone 24/7, dealing with scheduling challenges, dealing with every single piece of paperwork, dealing with every single payroll, dealing with every single land? No way you did that. So when you develop a skill set, develop a team, then you actually start to have a different business. But it ain't low overhead. It can be lean. It can still be smart. But the minute you even start playing in that world, you have to start thinking numbers become important. So my next point, number 2, is you have to define what low overhead is. So here's my kind of real life from the trenches experience. If you're a doc right now and people are like, oh, are you talking about numbers now? Yes, I'm talking about numbers. You need to know the numbers. Couple things when you open your own practice. You should first of all know what your break-even number is by unit. So how many adjustments by unit, how many adjustments do I have to at least break even? All costs, and you need to throw them all in there with a little bit of a wage for yourself. Normally, in my experience, most of the associates, especially the associates I work with, who were quote unquote higher volume, will realize that there's a tipping point. Almost nobody makes, it's about 150 to 200 a week. If you're under 150 a week, doc, and that's what you want, by the way, it's about self-awareness. There's nothing wrong with that. In most of the cases I have witnessed, depending on where you practice in the world and the deals you've got, etc., you're going to make more money as an associate if you're under that. The extreme tipping point, if you're doing it for money for a certain period of your life, there comes a tipping point of between 150 to 200 a week. If you're the 250, the 300 a week doc, or the 300 a week practice, and you want to remove yourself from the practice, it's still a very relevant tipping point. I've opened 9 practices, remember, and helped hundreds of practices across the world. There's something about 150 to 200 a week. It's if you open from scratch and you're not in there, and it's associates, and it's a lower margin business because it's a business that works without you, it's still about 150 a week to 200 a week, where you start paying all your bills, you start making a bit of profit. At that point, you start being able to scale, put more money into advertising, etc. It's above that you really start changing things a little bit. Your money math in your business starts to change dramatically. If you are going into opening your own business and you know that you want to keep it quote unquote low overhead or low volume, that's okay. But know that under 100 or under 150, under 100 a week, it's just my experience, you're going to make more money as an associate if money is your thing. Now you got to ask yourself the question, happiness. Am I going to be happier doing that? Potentially you are, but then going to point number 1, you ain't going to have less. You're going to have more freedom than you had when you're going to have more freedom as an associate. Same money, if not better money. So don't do it then. If you want low overhead, don't do it for freedom, because it's not. It's just not freedom. So I hope that makes sense. I wanted to address the misnomer of low overhead practices, and there's a tipping point though. So I'm going to open more money, but Ryan, then I'm not getting a percentage. I'm getting 100%. No, you're not. You're not getting 100%. You're getting very little. Most businesses run on very low profit margins, and chiropractic is unique in that we have high profit margins. But if you remove yourself from the business, you go right back to like a normal business. 15% profit margin, 20% profit margin, even 30% profit margin is high. If you're the practice owner, then your margins are very high. Completely different podcast. But the first one is freedom. I wanted to ask you about the definition of freedom. 2 is low overhead versus a trap. Number 3 is holidays. So here's the thing. I also hear this. I want to open my own practice because I'm going to get more holidays. Listen, you're never going to get as many holidays as you got when you're an associate that are actually free, because you only have to replace yourself as the adjustment. You don't have someone to run the business. And that's why I say, from that as a short point, is you will always have to deal with some element of minutiae if you're on holiday and you own your own business. That is not the case necessarily. It certainly wasn't for me when I was an associate. So that's a different type of holiday. If you have the skill set to grow a business, even then you've got to deal with a certain level of minutiae. I mean, I was away for 3 months. I still had to deal with some stuff. Even though I'm like the most exclusive holidays and the most amazing places on the planet, I still have to deal with a little bit, but it's worth it because I make a ton of money. I serve a lot of people, and I'm living my dream. I love what I do. So, but there's a little bit of compromise. But then you got to put up with that. If you want the holiday where you off, don't open a business. Don't open a business.